It is really hard to look at this series right now and not think it's over. It is really hard not to look at this game and say we're done. Um, After a couple of games where St. Louis said, "Well, we didn't really play our best, but we came out with a split at home." They wanted to play a full 60. They kind of did that today, even though in the first period it didn't really show, especially early. If you're a Sharks fan and you're not concerned, you're not really a Sharks fan. This is very concerning. The St. Louis Blues destroyed San Jose in San Jose in this game. They left absolutely no doubt on the table. And we'll get into some of the hits that took place and some of what went on and some of the more controversial things and some brutal realities of playoff hockey. 10 seconds into the game, Evander Kane hits the post. If that goal goes in, who knows how this game would have unfolded. And we can get into the whole what ifs and maybes and holy what if. But it was a strong start for the Sharks and then downhill. Jones shut down Jaden Schwartz at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. That is the last time Jaden Schwartz would be shut down today. Jaden Schwartz is on the verge of putting up the most goals that any St. Louis Blue has in the playoffs in history. And he's become quite a story. And I've been a big Jaden Schwartz supporter. I was last year, and then this year he kind of disappeared, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. But this playoffs, he's really shown that my faith in him was well founded last year. The Blues hit the post then at 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and I thought that seemed important that both teams hit the post early. But Erik Karlsson was really hurting, and it was obvious. He's able to shoot. He's able to play on the point, but as soon as he has to turn and go back to his own zone, he is laboring. And the Blues are relentless. They are well aware of how much Karlsson's hurting, and they are not in a... And in the playoffs, you don't take mercy on a guy because you know he's hurt. You kind of do the opposite. And it is part of playoff hockey. It is one of the more brutal parts of playoff hockey. And I don't know if I was making the decision on the lineup for Game 6 if I would even have Erik Karlsson on the ice. Because at this point, I think it's been shown the last couple of games he's been more of a liability than an asset. Melker then missed the net. Melker Karlsson had a beautiful chance to get that in the net and missed it. And again, that felt important. Puck goes down the ice. Erik Karlsson from behind the net passes it. Foolish pass, a little bit, yep. Right to Sundqvist, and Sundqvist buries it. So Oscar Sundqvist with a goal that would prove to be the game winner. And right off that, San Jose looks kind of lost, but they hadn't really cracked yet. The Blues' confidence picked up as soon as that goal went in. You could tell the Blues kind of went, okay, this is our game. We're here. This is our game. There was a delay of game that gave the Sharks a power play, and the Sharks did nothing with it. Great penalty kill by St. Louis. And it is worth mentioning, St. Louis doesn't really take penalties. They really don't. They play a clean game. And I know we'll get to it. As I said here, Blues penalty kill won out. Binnington was really sharp when he had to be in the first period. The Sharks, however, were blocking and defending well, and I thought that was worthy of note. Though St. Louis had a decent amount of puck possession in that first period, they only had 4 shots to the 11 by San Jose. I don't know what gets said between the first and the second, but boy, does this game change in the second period. Quick start for the Blues. Then it goes down the other end of the ice, and Vlasic hits the post. So a couple of posts for San Jose. Doesn't matter. Thing is, with pucks that go off the post, you didn't hit the net. They don't count as shots. They don't count those as shots because they didn't hit the net. They hit the post. So as much as we think it's a dramatic and, oh, they were so close, there's still shots that miss. And then Martin Jones gets a shot from Tarasenko, which he then puts right on the stick of Schwartz. And it looked like maybe it changed directions. It kind of threw Jones off. But Jones passes it right to Schwartz. So that's 2 goals for St. Louis. And in both cases, they took advantage of brutal turnovers from San Jose. And Schwartz is not going to have an easier goal than that one. He had an empty net. Jones just threw it to him and it was an empty net. And the shots were 11-1 for St. Louis at 5 minutes into the second period. Yeah, St. Louis really took over. There's no chance this one's going overtime. Terrible defense by the Sharks. They are running around in their own zone. They're having problems, and those problems are only going to get worse as the game goes along. Tarasenko hits the side of the net, and you think that maybe the fact that he didn't hit the net, it's still 2-0. However, Tarasenko goes in on a breakaway, gets tripped down, penalty shot. This is the first penalty shot that the St. Louis Blues have had since 1968. They didn't score on that one. They scored on this one. Tarasenko with the first ever penalty shot goal for the St. Louis Blues in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, Tarasenko on the board with a goal. And here's the interesting thing. You have 3 goals on the board for St. Louis, 0 assists. None. 2 of them were assisted by Sharks, and the third was kind of assisted by a Shark as well for dragging Tarasenko down on the breakaway. Now, if he hadn't, odds are Tarasenko scores anyways, but I'm quibbling at that point. The shots are 15-1 for St. Louis at 6 minutes and 25 seconds into the second period. That's in that period. They had 15 shots in 6 minutes and 25 seconds. Absolutely riddled Martin Jones with shots. They understood, like Tarasenko, high glove side. They know where to shoot on Jones. They know what his weaknesses are. This is a Blues team that is well aware they've got San Jose on the ropes. And they've been wearing them down and wearing them down and wearing them down. The Sharks get their second shot of the period at 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Donskoy then gets a double minor for a high stick. However, they call the Blues penalty at 39 seconds into that power play, which I thought was, I don't know. I guess you can call that a hook. I thought it was just to break up the 4-minute power play, but the Blues were in full control, and the Sharks were scrambling. So even though they went to 4-on-4, which usually would favor the Sharks, not in this one. This game, nothing favoring San Jose. Third period, 2 Sharks penalties, not Sabres. Look at that. I get so busy with the writing the notes and trying to keep track of what's going on in the game. And in this case, there's the shock factor as well. That I had the Sabres on the ice taking penalties, which they might have if they've been in this game, because they were like, what are we doing out here? What? 2 Sharks penalties at 1 minute and 55 seconds. What happens is you got 2 refs on the ice. Both of them saw a penalty. That's a 5-on-3. That's that 2 referee system, which, can be great, and it can be brutal, because it's a 5-on-3 now for St. Louis, and we know where that's going. Jaden Schwartz. Perron and Tarasenko get the first assists of the day. And Jaden Schwartz, that's his second goal, power play goal, and that gets him to 11 goals. He only had 11 goals during the entire regular season. And that was before the first penalty ended, so this one was still 5-on-3. Karlsson was out. At this point, Karlsson is out. The energy's gone for the Sharks. It was a quiet building. There was no Sharks put back. Donskoy got hurt on, I believe it was a clearing pass by Vlasic that hit Donskoy in the face. Hurdle took a puck in the face from one of the San Jose Sharks' own players as well. And the Blues were just physically wearing the Sharks out when the Sharks weren't hitting themselves in the face with pucks. And then at this point, Pavelski's out of the game. And there were a lot of Shark fans that are upset about the hit that was thrown by Pietrangelo. I have right up here, Pietrangelo, number 1 public enemy with San Jose fans right now. Pavelski, by the limping that he was doing, looks like it was a lower body injury that was suffered. Hopefully not related to his jaw, to concussion or anything like that. Haley tried to pick a fight, got out on the ice, and they threw him out of the game. So the Sharks are down Karlsson, Pavelski, Donskoy, Hurdle, Haley. It's a lot. And they showed the Sharks bench, and there's, nobody on it. It reminded me of the old 80s games when you'd have, a bench-clearing brawl, and then they would clean it up, and after the penalties are done, you'd have hardly anybody left on the bench for the rest of the game. And the Sharks are in serious, serious trouble now. Because you've got Hurdle, who may not be back for the next game. When you take a puck in the face, it's dodgy that you're going to be back at all for the next game, or for the series for that matter. Donskoy and Hurdle both had that happen to them. And, Pavelski, who does have a long injury history, got taken out by Pietrangelo. And then San Jose players got fixated on Pietrangelo. I will say this. I am really kind of surprised that Berube didn't cut back Pietrangelo's ice time a lot in those last 10 minutes, just because you just don't want anything to happen to who is arguably your best defenseman. Depends on the shift, though. Sometimes it's Colton Parayko, sometimes it's Pietrangelo, and you could argue that any of that top six has been excellent in this series, especially with the fact that Dunn has missed the last 2 games, and you wouldn't know it. Vince Dunn, who was amazing for them, and he's been out the last 2 games, and they're doing what they have to do. They're winning. So there was still 12 minutes left when they were this shorthanded, and I honestly felt bad for San Jose. I did. I felt bad for them, and yet there were still some foolish decisions being made here. There was a Meyer trip that made it 5-on-3 for 39 seconds. Timo Meyer with a trip on Pietrangelo, and it's really obvious that the Sharks wanted to take Pietrangelo out. And the Sharks then end up getting a second power play to go with the 6 that St. Louis had in the game to that point. So again, the whole referees are in favor of San Jose thing really doesn't show here at all. And then Schwartz gets a goal from Tarasenko. That's the hat trick. And that puts him with more goals in the postseason than in the regular season. Big hat trick for Schwartz and for the Blues in general. This has been amazing. That's Schwartz's second hat trick in the playoffs, and the record by Brett Hull is 13 goals in a playoff series, or playoff year, I should say, for St. Louis. Schwartz should pass it. And then Kane was undisciplined with like 4 minutes left. He hits Bennington for goalie interference, and then he gets another slash at center ice. He gets thrown out of the game. Evander Kane, he's had somewhat of a breakdown. And you have to wonder if this is related to him hitting the post 10 seconds into the game. He had chances in this game, couldn't bury them, and then he watches his line mates are going down, and he is really one of the last skill guys left in the game, and then he's taken himself out, which means San Jose is playing without another player for the last few minutes of the game. Lots of room on the bench. They could have all sat back with their feet up on the bench itself and played cards. Like, holy crap. There was just nobody left on that bench. Bennington saves all 21 shots. San Jose gets shut out at home. The crowd is running for the doors with about 10 minutes left in this game. I don't necessarily blame them. Jones saves 34 out of 39. I can't throw shade at Jones, but I will say this. When they've needed a big save in this series, it's been hit and miss with Martin Jones. The shots are 11-4 for San Jose in the first, 20-6 for St. Louis in the second, 16-4 for St. Louis in the third. Second and third period, the shots were 36 for St. Louis and 10 for San Jose. This is a physical domination by St. Louis they've been setting up through 4 games. We all focus on the hand pass and the overtime in Game 3. What's more important is the number of hits, and I said this in the preview. Number of hits going into this game that's actually from the previous one, was 148 to 99 in favor of St. Louis. This is what 148 hits does through 4 games. It has worn down a team that came into this series already beat up. Karlsson was hurting at the beginning of this series. He's not going to admit it. And Pavelski, I have not had the feeling Pavelski's been 100% since he came back. He came back because he had to. They were in Game 7 against Colorado, and he was not going to sit out of Game 7, and he certainly isn't going to miss the conference final. The hit he takes in this game could take him out. That is one of the jobs you have as a hockey player. They said during this game, it was Gary Galley that said, they're going to hit Erik Karlsson every chance they get. And if a member of the St. Louis Blues has a chance to hit Karlsson and holds up and doesn't do it, he's going to get told off by his teammates when he gets to the bench for not doing what he has to take Erik Karlsson out of the game. It is a part of hockey that people don't like when it's happening to their players. I know from watching the Sedins for years, it can be really hard to watch as your skilled players are getting worn down. But when your team is the one wearing the other team down, it is part of the game. It is unfortunate. There is nothing that's going to be done about that because that's just hockey. That's how hockey works. That's a record 11 wins for the St. Louis Blues. They never had 11 wins in a playoff year before. Karlsson played a total of 10 minutes and 32 seconds. He was a -1. Again, he could be seen laboring anytime he had to try to skate fast. It's just not there. Hurdle played 10 minutes and 23 seconds before he got hurt. Pavelski played 12 minutes and 27 seconds before he got hurt. This series is absolutely in control for the St. Louis Blues. I can't see a way they don't win Game 6. And yes, I understand Pietrangelo is going to be public enemy number 1. Lost in the midst of all of this, Binnington with another shutout. And setting a record for wins in a playoff season by a Blues goaltender. Binnington was solid when he had to be, and it makes it worse for San Jose. Because again, while they're not getting some of those key saves you need from Jones, and he's giving a puck away in this play, and I understand that if you switch the goalies, if you had Binnington in San Jose and you had Jones in St. Louis, I don't think this really changes significantly. But there's a psychological advantage St. Louis has with Binnington right now that San Jose can't boast that they have with their goaltending. This series belongs to St. Louis. And right at the beginning of the playoffs, I thought St. Louis had an excellent chance to go all the way to the finals. And it looks like it's the only thing I got right. Again, we'll do the preview for Game 6 on Tuesday. We'll figure out what's going to happen for that. But I don't see how St. Louis does not go to the Stanley Cup Final for a rematch that's 49 years in the making with the Boston Bruins, starting a week from Monday. This was quite the game today. This was the most impressive game I think I've ever seen the St. Louis Blues play in the playoffs. Period. Any given year, I've never seen them do this. And it looks like they're on the verge of avenging what happened in 2016 when San Jose knocked them out in the playoffs in the conference final. So there you go. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always, and I know you will. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, this was some good playoff hockey. Again, I understand for Shark fans, this had to be just the visual of that bench and how empty it was. We'll see how things turn out in Game 6 and how many of these guys come back and what kind of shape they're in. Because St. Louis is hitting everything that moves. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.